For those who have played Persona 5, you know how important the Velvet Room is. But what if I said I'll try to beat the game without using it at all? So to start off, here's the rules. First rule is no Velvet Room aid. All that means is no fusing, no itemizing, no strengthening, and no registering or summoning from the Persona registry list. The second rule is I'm only allowed to fuse when it's required to continue the story, which shouldn't be an issue because I can only think of one instance when the game makes me fuse a persona, and I'm not allowed to use the persona that the game forces me to fuse. For the third rule, I'm allowed to use skill cards that don't come from the Velvet Room. Only if an enemy drops a skill card or asks Yusuke to copy one, I'm allowed to use it on my persona. Same thing with accessories. And the final rule is no DLC personas, because A, that would make this run way too easy, and B, that contradicts the first rule of no summoning from the Persona registry. This video contains spoilers for Persona 5 Royal, so if you don't want to be spoiled, click off the video. Also, be sure to subscribe and like the video, cause otherwise I won't be able to beat the game without the Velvet Room, so just do it. Subscribe. Do it. Anyway, we have our rules set, so let's try to beat Persona 5 Royal without using the Velvet Room. The game starts us off running out of a palace. Next I get held up by a shadow, but I deal with it fairly easily. I keep running and meet the redhead on the game box, then boom, I get arrested and beaten. Since I'm doing a no Velvet Room run, I named myself Margaret because she's the best Velvet Room attendee. Knockoff Miles Edgeworth tells me to recall the past events of how and why I became a phantom thief. So I get put under probation for a year because I decide to throw hands with a white bald guy. The person looking after me is a man named Sojiro, and since he's an old restaurant owner, I'm forced to live in the attic of his cafe for the rest of the year. The next day I go to school and meet Ryuji. He wants me to start early on the challenge, so he immediately takes me to the first palace. But since he forgot I'm doing a no Velvet Room challenge, he doesn't have Izanagi no Okami and gets nearly beat to death. Luckily, Joker remembers he has Arsene and summons his persona to beat the enemy shadows. We free a cat named Morgana from jail because he didn't pay his taxes, then we leave the palace. I come back to school half a day late, learn about Kawakami's non-existent sex life, and then go back home to my attic. The next day, Ryuji wants to visit the palace again and Morgana shows up to help us investigate. Ryuji doesn't think the game is localized enough, so he gives us a gun, and Morgana teaches us some new techniques for battle. After a while, Ryuji gets bored and we decide to leave the palace again. But Kamoshida is expecting us to leave. Kamoshida has his guards try to kill Morgana and Joker, then shows off his Discord kitten. Ryuji gets so pissed off about being a virgin he decides to awaken to his persona. After we beat some more shadows, Ryuji wants to leave the palace so he can get laid. Since Kamoshida is abusing most of the athletes, we decide to interrogate every student with bandages on, and unsurprisingly, they deny it. The next day, Morgana comes out of the metaverse to tell us that we can change Kamoshida's heart, which will end all of his abuse. Only downside is it might kill him, but after a girl named Shiho tries to kill herself over Kamoshida's abuse, we decide that we should change his heart. I do some light exploring and some persona collecting for a bit. Then An thinks we can't complete this challenge without her, so she enters the palace as well. But someone told her that Kamoshida had chocolate truffles and she gets captured. We go to help An, but she awakens to her persona to help herself. After a quick mini-boss, we go back to reality to add on to our team. Next, the game forces me to spend the next 2 days buying items and weapons, and finally, after all of that, we can explore the palace at our own pace. When I go back to the palace, the game forces me to fuse a new persona. But required fusions don't count, and I won't be using the persona that it made me fuse, so I'm able to keep going. After proceeding further in Kamoshida's palace, I head back to reality to do some studying. I chose to study the night I got back, after school, and the following night to boost my knowledge. I wanted to make sure I had enough knowledge so I could get a good score on my exams, so I could get a boost in charm, and unlock Makoto's confidant later. When I returned to Kamoshida's palace, I recruited this persona named Silky, so I decided to make her my main persona for this palace. She has a sleep skill, ice skill, and healing skills, and on top of all that, her stats aren't that bad either, so I thought she'd be good for this palace. I continued my exploration, got Kamoshida's first will seed, and went back home to make some calming aromas. When I returned to the palace the next day, I got the third will seed, and yes, I forgot to get the second one. Also, sorry the quality of the video dropped here, I was having like Wi-Fi issues or something, so it just looks like complete ass. This is probably what Persona 5 would look like if it got ported to the Switch. Taking down the mini-boss wasn't too hard, luckily it got shocked. I was able to use my guns a lot and get technical damage, and knock it down for some all-out attacks. At around this part of the game, I wanted to take a break. I had just gotten some key items I needed for a puzzle and thought I'd save my game. But oh no, every shadow from literally every part of the palace had to come out and attack me. I'm not even joking when I say I was like 20 feet away from the safe room door and enemies just kept trying to attack me. But I was able to make it to the safe room and save my game. While I was gonna use the key items to solve the puzzle, I fucked up. Take a look at the clip.
Strong. I don't advise fighting it.
In thy name.
How could they be this strong?
Maybe fighting that shadow wasn't a good idea, but I got my revenge and beat it on the second try. A little bit after all that, I found the treasure and all I had to do next was send the calling card. And yes, I spent the night studying after we got back from the palace and the night before we sent the calling card. With the calling card sent to Kamoshida, we're able to defeat his shadow and take his treasure. At the start of the boss fight, I wasn't feeling too bad about it. I wasn't taking too much damage and I was dealing some good damage to the shadow. But then I did something stupid, and I want you to guess what stupid thing I did. If you chose option A, congratulations, you are correct. As Kamoshida was doing his kill shot, I forgot to block and spent my turn healing, so then I just fucking died. On my second try of this boss fight, I ended up just killing Shiho, so then he couldn't do the killer shot at all. Without having to worry about Kamoshida doing the kill shot, this makes the boss fight a lot easier. After a little bit, I actually had a pattern going. Attack with Joker and Ryuji, and have Ann heal whenever she can. After I continue the pattern for a while, Kamoshida goes down. We stole Kamoshida's treasure and changed his heart, so now we just have to wait for him to confess. For the last week, while I wait for Kamoshida to confess, I level up my guts, my knowledge, I begin my confidant with Takemi and Sojiro, continue my confidant with Ryuji, brew some more coffee, and start working at the flower shop and the convenience store. After all the waiting, Kamoshida finally confesses to his crimes and Ryuji shit-talks him the whole time.
There were even students that I sentenced to expulsion. Simply because I didn't like them.
This ain't looking good.
I will, of course, rescind those.
Just die already!
I am truly sorry for putting innocent youths through such horror.
With our first mission being a success, we decide to sell Kamoshida's treasure to pay for our fancy buffet. While at the buffet, we meet the same person who got us probation to begin with. We all agree we should steal more hearts because we literally have nothing better to do, then we officially become the Phantom Thieves. While we look for another heart we should change, we decide to act like normal students. I decide to pick up a part-time job at the Beef Bowl restaurant. I need to work at the Beef Bowl restaurant at least twice to start my confidant with Yoshida. Now, Yoshida is gonna be our savior during this run. Yoshida's confidant skills gimmick is negotiations. He can let us ask for more money, raise the chance for us to get a rare item, and even let us recruit shadows that are a higher level than I am. So safe to say, I'll be grinding his confidant whenever possible. Makoto starts to think that Joker is best boy at Persona 5 and chooses to stalk me and my group of friends for a few weeks to find out if I'm single or not. While we're waiting for a new target, Morgana introduces us to a place called Mementos. Mementos is kinda like a palace, except it's everyone's palace, so we're able to steal other people's hearts here as well. After we complete a Mementos request, we meet a little robot dude named Jose. Jose is drinking flowers to understand humans' emotions, I guess. I don't know, this guy really doesn't get explained. We return to reality, and Yusuke starts to think that Ann is best girl at Persona 5 and starts to stalk her. While I'm waiting for exam week to start, I decide to waste some time with some confidants. Now exam week begins. I guessed exactly half of these answers right. Since I had level 2 knowledge, I hoped I would get a good score for the charm boost later on. After the school realizes they could get cancelled on Twitter for letting an abuser be a gym teacher, they hire a therapist called Takuto Maruki. Maruki will also be a useful confidant because he can let us potentially raise Joker's attack at the beginning of battle, sometimes remove ailments immediately, and possibly replenish Joker's SP whenever it gets low. Maruki even raises our SP by 5 every confidant level and gives us a free item. Atlas didn't have to be so generous, but I will gladly take it. The next day, Yusuke invites Ann to be his next model for his art piece and invites us to see his sensei's art show. Joker and Ryuji only go because we think he's investing in NFTs. We head to the art show the next day to confirm some of the rumors we had heard about Yusuke's sensei. We aren't 100% sure if we should pick him as our next target, so we decide to just keep investigating him. The next day after school, we head on over to Yusuke's house to confirm these rumors, but of course, Yusuke denies them. After we guess the keywords, we find out that Madarame does indeed have a palace. With a stunning revelation like this, I think this is a good place to end the episode. What'd you think? You enjoy? Well, maybe consider subscribing and throwing a like down there. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and you're just as excited to continue the challenge as much as I am. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all later.